graduation coach serves as a additional resource to the school in providing support for the most at-risk population, those students who have been identified based on test scores of not being successful or even graduating. So my role is to support the guidance counselors, which I am not a certified guidance counselor, but to support them by developing a graduation plan. So monitoring being that student's most or best advocate and ensuring that they receive the services that are needed, that are social, emotional, that are post-secondary, as we talk about career and college readiness for them, and also the ability of helping them maintain or obtain the dream of graduating from high school.
Lots of other districts trying to kind of get at some of these same issues as you all and trying lots of different strategies for reducing the dropout rate and increasing the graduation and college going rate. Why should they consider a graduation coach model?
Well, I think the role of a counselor, it's very different now today. We have a lot of testing mandates that are placed upon us that doesn't really give the counselors enough time to really to sit one-on-one with students and really talk about what it takes or what is needed for them to be able to graduate from high school. And so my role of being another individual, adult, an advocate on that campus for that student, they can seek after to be able to meet with them and monitor their success and provide the social emotional support or referral for those support systems for them is really what makes it different for me, I think, for those students.
I like to call it a closing the gap on teacher performance. I know we talk a lot about closing the gap for students, but by closing the gap on teacher performance, that in and of itself will close the gap on student performance. I think that over the past several years that we have seen that happen by looking at those teachers who are experts in their field, who have clear knowledge of pedagogy and strategies, and they are the experts. And then we have those teachers who are not. So through our professional development, we are able to continue to close that gap with teacher performance. That has had a direct impact on student performance. Our students come to us as they are. We are the adults. We're the ones who make decisions that impact our students' lives. So we have to be accountable and responsible for that. There is a researcher that I'm very impressed with, and I have read a lot of his work. And what he says is that no child should ever be held more accountable than the adult that teaches them. So from that standpoint, again, I believe that for the change in our students is based upon what happens in that classroom every day. Our students don't change. They come to us, but the way that they come to us, it's the education that we provide for them that changes their lives.
One of the things that your superintendent talked about here earlier was the educator data warehouse.
Yes. I think that the awareness, the greater awareness of the impact of what happens in a classroom by analyzing the data. The numbers just don't lie. So when you're sitting down and you're looking at the results that we get from EDW, it's very clear those areas that we're doing well in, those areas that schools are doing well in, those areas that individual teachers are or are not doing aware of. So when you sit down in those learning team meetings and you lay out the results from the educational data warehouse, and you see those greens and yellows and reds that Mr. Gent spoke about, now you have to look at what's the reason for that happening. And you have to be very open and you have to be very honest. So in those learning team meetings, what should happen and what does happen is that we do look at that in a very honest way. Now by doing that, now suddenly it's right there in your face. How can you ignore that? And I think that that is one of the reasons why the EDW has been so effective, because it breaks down students by different levels. We have a large ELL population, our African American population, our ESC population. So those children are not left out because there are various ways that you look at that EDW report. And that's very informative for making decisions that need to be made in the classrooms and with individual teachers. So the strategies, if the teachers are using effective research-based strategies with fidelity, then we should see a change in what's happening in the classroom. If that change is not occurring, then it's important to provide those teachers with additional professional development. And if that isn't happening, then it's a time to have some serious conversation, because our students don't have the time to actually wait on someone's learning curve. They're here right now, and we have to respect that, and their lives are dependent upon what we do.
The work at Miami Edison really revolved around one simple but profound premise, in that if we wanted to raise the expectations of our students and we wanted to start closing the achievement gap, we had to change the experience that they were having in our schools. The idea of doing what we've been doing as the way we've always done it and expecting to see different results, I think we realized that we had to do something different to ensure that our students bought into the changes that were taking place. So that really drove the work based on 5 pillars or 5 key areas for transformation. First of it being culture. And we've heard a lot about culture this morning. But really at a school site, culture begins with how the floors look. How clean is the building? What's the appearance of the environment that students are walking into? And we put a lot of elbow grease at Edison with the support of the superintendent, of course, to ensure that our students were walking into what used to be a school that needed a lot of TLC to a school that was touted as the cleanest school in the district. And the message to the student was, it's not clean because we're expecting visitors. It's clean because you're expected to come to school and this is what you deserve. And I think that was the first message that we sent to the students, that this was a new Edison, this was a new place, a different place, where the expectations from the adults and the students were going to be different. The next key area we looked at was the curricular efficiency. Right? We took a look at the course offerings, and we analyzed very closely whether the courses and the experience that they were going to have academically was best suited to prepare them beyond high school. We moved the number of students and improved the number of students participating in advanced courses from 23% before I arrived to over 80% this past year, increasing advanced placement and dual enrollment. We expanded opportunities to help them prepare for exams like the ACT and the SAT, so that they can not only see those tests as a vehicle to graduate from high school, but as an opportunity to enter into a world of work or a college opportunity that's going to help them succeed beyond that. And the third area we invested a lot of resources in, of course, is the instruction. As we've heard before, it begins with the classroom teacher. We worked very hard to recruit highly qualified teachers into our building and put a staff together that we felt that were invested in the work, that took ownership over the work, that were not forced to be at Miami Edison, but chose to be there and wanted to take on that challenge. But having said that, that wasn't enough. We needed to provide a system, a mechanism to support the teachers on a daily basis. You heard from the superintendent the work that is being done at these schools through the support of the instructional coaches in every single classroom, through the support of our administrative team. Each one of my administrative team members were assigned to a core academic area so they can also be invested in the work and be able to drive that work on a daily basis. And this type of, I think, environment, what it did was it turned the focus of our work and my work as principal, one from evaluating teachers to collaborating with teachers. And I think that that's a very important element that we have to embrace, that if we want to continue to move the needle, we have to collaborate in that effort. It cannot be just a top-down mentality, but some of that work and effort has to come from within. We looked at systems in the school. What is the experience the child is going to have from the second they walk in through the front door at Miami Edison to the moment they leave later on that evening? So expectations were made very clear. Students were not allowed to come into our building if their pants were below their waist. Their shirts needed to be tucked in. IDs needed to be present. It was an environment for teaching and learning, and we needed to protect that atmosphere to ensure that our teachers had an environment that really produced students that would come into their classroom ready to learn, and the students also were able to walk in an environment where they felt safe, where they felt protected, where they felt supported. So transitions from class to class, where the security team was deployed throughout the building, how we interacted with students in morning announcements and throughout the hallways, meetings with student government leaders, and all those systems were put in place, again, with that sole purpose of supporting our teachers, supporting our students, and ensuring that we had growth. And the last key area is obviously sustainability. correct? I mean, the last thing that we want to see are spikes in improvement and big gains in improvement, and then there's either a change in leadership or there's a change in a certain teacher, and that growth begins to plummet. And we worked very hard at developing teacher leaders through common planning, through lesson study, through literacy leadership teams. We brought the teachers into the mix so that they took ownership of the work. They were part of the decision-making process, as well as our administrative team developing the leaders throughout. Two of my assistant principals have recently been promoted to principal at other locations, and they are now pushing that work that we established at Edison to those schools. But the new administrators that have come in have become part of that system as well, and have been able to carry on the process that we laid out at Edison.
When I started my career, meetings at my school site were really about informational dissemination. You went to 3 different meetings that all told you when the Hispanic Heritage Luncheon was and when this grade is due and who's visiting on this day. What I've seen in recent years is a real shift toward much more collaboration, much more collegiality. When we take the time to pull teachers together, we really are taking the time to talk about teaching and learning. So when we're meeting as teams or meeting as departments, grade level teams, when we're meeting even in a faculty meeting, our faculty meetings now are professional development sessions led by our instructional leaders, led by our administrators, so that everyone is on board and everyone's talking about teaching and learning. Teachers expressed the need that they wanted to have the opportunity to build capacity, to share, to do lesson study, to visit each other's classrooms, to talk about what was working and what wasn't working. So really, it was a top-down and a bottom-up conversation. We had teachers who traditionally maybe were quiet or didn't share as much, who with these protocols and in these types of meetings were able to share things that were working in their classrooms. Out of that, in my particular school, came a conversation about technology. Teachers wanted to do more differentiation. They wanted to do things that were real world, that were really things that kids would experience in their daily lives. And so through grants and through some creative scheduling and some creative funding, we were able to increase our number of labs. We were able to get some mobile labs with laptops on them so teachers could bring those into the classroom to use. All of our classrooms now are equipped with the kids call them ladybug carts because it has a little red document camera on it. It looks like an antenna. So they say, oh, the ladybug cart isn't working today, or it is working today. But really, essentially, they're just multimedia carts with a document camera on them, with an LCD projector, with a DVD player, with anything you would need to show a snippet of a video or to run a digital story, or to give students an opportunity to have an audience for all of these products they're creating. If you're asking kids to generate a digital story or asking them to make a video snippet or use that as part of the process of your lesson, you have to have a platform to use it. So every single classroom in our school is equipped with that. We've also implemented, in many of our schools, and I can speak to my experience, but in every school I've been in, we have, by different names, of course, someone mentioned earlier, it's education, so everything has to have an acronym. In my school, they're called IGLETs, which they're not mini igloos. They are interdisciplinary grade level teams where we work horizontally, vertically across disciplines.
Districts across the country now are going to adopt IGLETs.
IGLETs are going to borrow the mini igloos, right? We can use the little symbol, little logo. So it gives teachers an opportunity to develop, to co-plan, so that students see that our departments are not compartmentalized, that math and science and language arts and social studies and electives all interact, and we're able to build bridges, which really, teachers are enjoying teaching more because the instruction is more relevant, they're seeing positive results, and students are much, much more engaged. So for me, that would be the biggest shift, really building capacity at school sites and, having the group trust to work together to say what's working, what's not working, and where do we go from here.
I have been in the district for 6 years now, and one of the biggest changes I have seen in the past 4 or 5 years is moving from whole group instruction to small group instruction. We understand that one of the most important elements in closing the gap is targeting individual students' needs. So we need to differentiate, and that is key, and it's very challenging at the same time. We need to design meaningful, engaging lessons for our at-risk students, our average students, as well as for our gifted and talented students. So that is one of the biggest changes I have seen. Another big change I have seen is our professional development. Now it is more powerful. In the past, we used to call it like sit and take trainings. Now it's individualized. It really supports our needs. So that makes a big difference. For example, we have teacher development specialists. When we need them, we call them. They can come to our classroom. They work hand on hand with us, with our students. They model lessons for us. They give us immediate feedback. So they are a great resource. In Houston ISD, we are constantly changing, improving. We think there is always room for growth.
And you don't think the constant change is bothersome to teachers? You don't feel teachers are feeling put upon by all the change?
At some point, you feel like that, but you have to understand that the only way to help the students to close the gap, you need to change, you need to move faster, because education is dynamic. We have to be dynamic too.
I would also say in the last 4 or 5 years, I think that technology has played a key role in the classroom. It's changed the way we teach. It's changed the way students learn. And technology has provided data at our fingertips. Teachers can be in the classroom instructing, get answers from student responders, and change instruction immediately, keeping that instruction, first best instruction at its best. And it has provided informative feedback for our students. I would have to say, I look at my students now as opposed to 6 years ago when I first got to Park Ridge. Our students are much more aware of their expectations. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. They feel empowered, they've taken ownership over the learning, and I think student engagement's played a key role with that.
My understanding is that Corona Norco starts with in the elementary school grades with strategies for college and career readiness.
Well, in Corona Norco, we recognize that college and career readiness is a kindergarten through 12 effort. If we don't send our students into the secondary level, on grade level, they can't do the work that they need to do. And I feel that our district has worked from a research model that has 8 factors for college and career readiness. While some of them are more effective or more implementary to the secondary level, there's several that we have quickly taken on at the elementary level. One is just college and career knowledge. Most of our schools in our district, including my school, once a week we set aside a day to celebrate going to college. We celebrate careers. Teachers spend time in their classrooms talking about their own college experiences. And then I also, another key factor that we focus on is data-driven instructional cycles. As Dr. Lynn stated, we have weekly collaboration time. Our teachers are our collaboration is very driven by data. With pre-assessments and post-assessments, we determine the first best instruction, and it also helps us determine how we respond to intervention when the students aren't meeting with success. We also focus on early identification and support of at-risk students. We have systematic interventions in place. We can't afford to have our students fall through the cracks anymore, and so we do whatever it takes to get them caught up and at grade level. And then last and foremost is just having a high-performing school culture. We have to have a rigorous level of instruction in our classrooms. We have to have a high level of student engagement, and a no excuses attitude, if you will. And we have to focus on what we have control over. And I think someone from the panel said earlier, we don't have control over the backgrounds and experiences our children come to school with. But the 6+ hours that they're in our schools, we definitely can make an impact on their learning and get them college and career ready.